self-sufficient. This is what's happening in the less developed countries everywhere. Or it is not a government of the people at all. In the name of democracy, there are such governments in the world which are governed by the people outside. So why should you impose such views on Islam which are unpractical, which in reality do not exist? They are just popular myths and nothing more. So this is why Islam does not present a single system anywhere in the Holy Quran or according to the traditions of the Holy Prophet of Islam. No one single system of government has ever been proposed. And I have been telling this to many non-Ahmadis as well who come to me, and they have never brought one single evidence from the Holy Quran from which they can prove that Islam has that particular type of government to propose and no other government would be called Islamic. On the other hand, in this essay which I read out in which university was it? Was it in Australia? Huh?
Australia.
Canberra, yes. In this essay, I have quoted repeated verses where Islam enlarges upon the concept of the rights of the people and the responsibilities of the governments. And of this nature, there are so many verses. So what Islam is interested in is the net result of the government. Islam does not care what form of government there is, because Islam cannot ignore the fact that even in this age there are people of various different developments in this world. Some are belonging to African countries at an earlier stage of development, some highly advanced American states, or less advanced South American states, or middle of the road states of Europe, and so on and so forth. So Islam cannot ignore this fact, and it's the religion of the entire world. How can it condone one system at one time and declare all the rest as un-Islamic? So if you study this reality, then you will understand that it's not possible to propose one single formula for any one time, for all the people. And Islam is a religion of the entire world. So what is the minimum upon Islam could concentrate? The minimum was the responsibilities of the governments. They remain the same, whatever the system be. They are responsible for the welfare of their people. They are responsible for the establishment of the dispensation of justice. They are responsible for being honest and true to their own people and to the rest of the world as well. And if they discharge their duties to their own people honestly and justly, and they are devoted to the cause, then if this is done by a dictator or by a democratic government or by a fascist government, what would be the difference to the people? Whatever belongs to the people would go back to the people, and nothing of their rights would be trampled. So this is the end result on which Islam concentrates. So from Islamic point of view, we cannot declare one system of government un-Islamic. But when they begin to rule, their cruelties to their own people or to the rest of the world, they can be declared un-Islamic. And their Islam has very specific opinions. Next, Saki Sahib, you wanted to say something, please?
My question is,
why are you dissociating yourself from this question? Is it embarrassing?
This question, as a matter of fact, has been asked even before, and it has come from the ladies' side.
Yes.
It's from Uzma Said.
Yes.
What she wants to know is, she says that if you want to prove to a stranger that Allah exists, what kind of proofs would you give? you must exclude the Holy Quran and Hadith because the stranger doesn't believe in them. If there isn't very much time to tell the stranger, what can you say in a few words? If we tell him that there is someone behind every work and he asks who is behind Allah, what answer should we give?
Yes. First of all, I think she herself is a stranger to the Holy Quran and the traditions of Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because she doesn't know or doesn't seem to know that Islam presents her arguments even for those who are opposed to Islam, who are hostile to Islam. So those arguments produced by the Holy Quran and Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam are not arbitrary at all. So to say or to lay the condition that I should not take my arguments from the Holy Quran or tradition is depriving me of all I know. How can they prove the existence of God without referring to the Holy Quran and referring to the tradition? So she should ask somebody else there in that case. With this condition, I can't offer a single word, because all my knowledge, all my approach to God is based on the Quran and the traditions of Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But this is wrong, and I do not agree to this part of the assumption in the question that if you start taking your arguments from the holy book or the holy word of Hazrat Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then the argument would become automatically arbitrary and unacceptable for the rest of the world. It won't be so, because the Holy Quran itself gives itself a name, Al-Furqan. Al-Furqan means an argument which creates positive distinction between right and wrong, so that darkness and light cannot be confused with each other, which becomes apparent. And the Holy Quran repeatedly tells us that we have Brahim, logical, rational arguments, so powerful and potent that they can defeat any enemy. The Holy Quran tells us of debates between the prophets of Allah and their enemies. And nowhere in such debates you ever find an arbitrary argument. When Hazrat Abraham, for instance, discussed the unity of God against idolatry, against star worship, he never said that because Allah tells me so you must admit. He comes out with a beautiful argument in chains, in stages. And ultimately when he discharges the total effect of that argument, it becomes so weighty that there is nothing left for the enemy. Similarly, he had a way of debating things on rationality which Allah liked so much that at one place he says, فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. The argument, the wisdom of Abraham was so weighty that the enemy was flabbergasted, had nothing to say in return. So this is the Holy Quran, and you tell me that I shouldn't take my arguments from this book, and perhaps you would like me to turn to Marx for arguments in favor of Allah? The fact is that all the arguments we borrow from the Holy Quran and the traditions of Hazur Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam are rational arguments. We do not believe in Mullaism. We do not believe in arbitrary imposition of your own views upon others. But the question is that there are so many types of atheists. Number one, they are divided into two large categories of agnostics and atheists. So for agnostics you must have a different approach. For atheists you should have a different approach according to their individual thinking and their individual approach to the question of God. A scientist atheist would require a different argument. Of course, fundamentally you will find all those arguments mentioned in the Holy Quran, but in matter of principles. You'll have to enlarge upon them, you have to borrow from them and then put them into practice. and fight with the